Hey boys and girls, so we're going to start today's writing lesson by filling in the goal for teaching point number 3. There are two parts to this one again, and um, you'll see how both part 1 and part 2 actually are going to work together for this. So take a moment to fill in the blanks for this teaching point and then reflect on your knowledge before the lesson and the amount of effort that you're willing to put forth before the lesson. So if you can pause the video right now for a minute while you take time to do that, that'd be great. Now that we're ready to move on, I'm going to ask that your notebooks are down in front of you, that your pencils are down in front of you as well, so that you can put all of your attention on the lesson and the tasks that I will ask you to do. That'd be wonderful. We're going to begin by looking at two characters that we know quite a bit about. And the first part of this lesson is thinking about developing a believable character by thinking about what qualities everyone can understand. So you can see that the question that I'm going to ask you to talk about with your partner says, what allows us to believe that characters like Mr. Tumnus or Harry Potter actually exist? We know that they're not real, that they do have some realistic qualities about them, and they both have some fantasy qualities about them. So I want you to have a conversation with your partner about either character or both, and think about what characteristics, what is there in them that really allows us to say, oh, you know what? I believe that this character could exist in a book, or that this character could exist in a movie. So have a minute conversation and make sure that both of you get a chance to speak. And again, right now, if you could pause the video so that you can have that conversation, go ahead. Okay, some things that you and your partner may have come up with might be something like this. If we're considering Mr. Tumnus, one thing that makes him believable is that he's kind to a young girl. We know that characters can be kind. He's got that characteristic or that quality that we believe in. He also felt embarrassed about what he did with kidnapping Lucy, and we also know that that feeling and that emotion of embarrassment is something that we can relate to. It's real. Something else that we can view as being realistic with Mr. Tumnus is that he's helpful when he takes Lucy back to the lamp post. He wants to try to help her find her way back to the wardrobe and the spare room. If you were talking about Mr. Harry Potter, some things you and your partner may have discussed might have been that he wants to feel accepted by others. When he was younger and living with the Dursleys, he didn't necessarily have that feeling, and so now that he's at Hogwarts, he wants to feel accepted. And we know as humans how it feels to want to be accepted by other people. Something else that we can relate to is that sometimes he does well in school and sometimes he doesn't. And that's something that, whether it's school or sports or instrumental practices or dance lessons, whatever it is that we're participating in, there are times where we do really well and there succeed, and there are times where we don't. And so because he has those traits, we can believe that he's real and we understand how he feels. And then another quality is that he wants to help other people. And we see that in other people. We see that sometimes in ourselves, in our friends, in our teachers, our parents. And so those qualities help us believe that, you know what, Harry Potter could actually exist. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try to put some of these qualities into our own characters for the stories that we're going to develop. So what I've done is in my Google Doc, again, I've shared this with you, so if you scroll down to the 4th page, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll see where the beginning of this is going to start. So this is teaching point 3 and part number 1. And we want to try to, like we said, to create a character that is believable. So I named my character. I gave my character a name. It's Dave. I just picked something. It's actually my sister's husband's name, so I went with someone that I knew. And then I'm giving him some qualities over here, things that he might collect, his favorite clothes, places that he enjoys, values he has, or things that he values, his worries, funny things about him, relatives, and his habits, things that I know that will help us relate to him or help my reader relate to him. And I want these things to be as realistic as possible because that's going to make my reader believe that he's real. So things that he might collect are magnets from other countries he has visited, his favorite clothes, jeans, and a t-shirt. Special places, his family lake house. Values his family, he values his friends. He worries about not getting work done on time. He worries about flying long distances. Again, some of these things you can see are put in there on purpose based on what my story is going to be about. Funny things about him, he talks to himself sometimes. He talks with moving his hands a lot. His relatives, he has a big family and habits. He doesn't like going to bed, but he also doesn't like getting up early. So these are all traits, these are all qualities that we have seen within people that we know. And so therefore we could believe that this isn't a person who could actually exist in the world. And I actually based Dave a lot on myself, things that are true about me. Because again, like we said before, that if we know about something, it's going to be easier for us to write about. So I kind of based Dave and said, Dave is a lot like me. So now we're going to move forward a little bit more to the second part of the lesson, and we want to think about this piece down here. What does my character want? And what are the difficulties or challenges that get in the way of what he wants? In my case, what he wants. And so now I have to think specifically about that entry and that topic that I chose to carry through the writing process. So this is going to be specific to me. The thing that my character wants, or the difficulty that he has, is that he wants to get to Ireland on this flight, and he wants the flight to go quickly. And that's a realistic item in this case. It's something that's real. We believe it, and so therefore it works for us. Now the fantasy part of this, though, is that he wants, or for the he wants his iPad to work properly, so that he can have the plane slow down. Because as you remember, I said that once he presses fast forward on the iPad, that the plane also fast forwards. So he's got this fantasy part that is a struggle and a challenge that he has, and that's going to be the fantasy part. So I kind of got two struggles, one that's realistic and one that's fantasy. Now, along with this desire, there's also some sort of difficulty with the accomplishment of the desire. So, to go along with this realistic piece of wanting to get to Ireland as quickly as possible, the difficulty with it is that, you know what, the flight is scheduled to last 8 hours. It's going to be a long time. There's no way around it. That's the realistic part of this story. That's something he can't get around. But the fantasy part of that comes in number two with if once the iPad works and has the plane move quickly, like I said up here, this is what he wants it to have happen. He's also got the part where the iPad is frozen and the plane is moving too fast. And that part is fantasy based because the plane is moving fast because of the iPad. But it's also realistic based because I know that the way that he's going to solve this problem is going to be based on his own skills and his own thought process. It's not going to be a fantasy. Superman is not going to come in and save the plane. There's going to be something that's realistic that helps him solve it. So now that I've got that, I'm going to write an entry about this situation. So I say Dave is flying to Ireland. He wants, that's his desire, he wants to get there, but his struggle is that he's nervous about the flight over the ocean, as he is not a big fan of longer flights, especially when there is turbulence. Of course, within the first hour, there are 3 moments of rough air when he became anxious. To relax halfway through the flight, Dave opened his laptop. Oh yeah, I'm changing that. He's going to take out his iPad. He took out his iPad to watch a movie. While fast forwarding through the opening previews, Dave realized the plane moved faster too. He pressed pause. The plane paused in the air. Yes, I will make it to Ireland in no time. He pressed fast forward, and within 30 minutes the flight was nearing the end. Dave pressed play to slow down the plane, but the button was stuck. So again, this is part of the fantasy-based struggle that he's going on. He pressed it repeatedly, and he pushed all the buttons on his iPad. Nothing worked. Force quit. Nope. Dave's last option was to restart his iPad. Forgot I made these changes. He did it, but time was running out. As the iPad finished loading, and the DVD player and the movie player was opening, the plane was rapidly nearing the airport. Just as the wheels were about to touch the ground, Dave pressed play, and miraculously the plane slowed down. And they landed safely. He learned that going through things quickly may not be the best way to fix a problem. So he's got some struggles there. He's got some things that he needs to fix. But you can see that what solved the problem was something that was realistic. Have we all had an iPad or a laptop or something freeze on us? Sure. So we know how that feeling is. Have we all had to problem solve to try to figure out how to fix the problem? Sure. And restarting might be the case, and in this case it did. So it was something as realistic that solved it. And so his thought process in problem solving is what solved the problem. So this is what you're going to work on today. You're going to be thinking, number one, thinking about your character and developing your character, and you can use these attributes or these different ideas if you want to. I know that your template looks a little different, so if you want to highlight this and then press Command C, it'll copy it, because right now in yours, your template, it looks like this. So you can simply highlight this and press delete. And then after deleting it, you can go into here, and then after you've copied it, press Command V, and that'll paste in the table that I gave you, and you can fill this space in on your character. Okay, so create a character that's believable. That's the first task that you have. And then after that, come up with what is their desire that's specific to your story. What is the difficulty that they have with achieving that that's specific to your story? And then create a little synopsis, almost like a blurb that might be on the back of a book for your story. Okay? Before you head off, I wouldn't mind if you took a look at your goal sheet and your writing notebook one more time. Reflect on that. Say, how do you feel about creating a character that's believable with things, desires, and struggles that we would understand? And score yourself as a 1, 2, 3, or 4 about how you feel about working on this. Okay? Good luck, boys and girls, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.